Hello and welcome back, everyone. As we mentioned just before the break, if you're not aware of it, unfortunately, Team YP wasn't able to make it due to a situation with two of their members, so they had to drop out of the tournament. Team Singularity has advanced now to round two, and we're about to start with For the Win versus MixyMix. I'm your host, Nikita Wraithor Buffy, with Nero Integrate.
Yep, and hopefully this match will go live first of all. It's actually already the second time that we're waiting for both these teams to line up right here. FTW, well, they were supposed to start at 6 p.m., but we asked them to play first just because we were waiting for YP, but due to FTW actually still playing some scrims, we had no possibility of replacing the matches. So yeah, let's check out what FTW is about in their introductory video. Yep, so that's what it looks like, and as it actually was worded in the video itself, hopefully they will show the world what they're capable of right here in the Legend series, because as we also mentioned half of an hour ago, there is just not much info on them. They got a little bit of success in the Portuguese scene, but to match up against these European even powerhouses, if we're talking about Singularity, it's going to be a big challenge.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be interesting to see how they do. They are quite a very supportive organization, so that's great to see, and I hope they do well. At the very least, I think this group's matches should be quite close, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they do. So we're ready into the picks and bans, and what do we have? Kings Road, Nepal, and Lijiang Tower.
Yep, so we're gonna get to see at least one of the King of the Hills right off the bat on day 3 of the Legend Series Overwatch, and King's Rose also getting through. Dorado was pretty close, Hollywood was pretty close, and it's Nepali during Tower King's Rose. So all the 5 most standard maps of the competitive play are actually down to the last 5. So that is interesting to see. Maybe we'll finally get a glance at Dorado. Because it was being banned most of the time throughout day 1 and 2. We've not seen a single one. We have seen 2 Hollywoods, if I'm not mistaken. So that was also not a lot. And quite a bit of Lijiang Tower, quite a bit of Nepal. Route 66 nearly every single time. And also King's Row getting into the mix from time to time. Numbani, surprisingly enough, being the one that showed up quite a bit too.
Yeah, so we're starting with Lijiang Tower, which is quite a good map to start off with. I think it should be quite exciting. I guess before we actually jump in, I do want to give a shout out to Hombres de Pack and in particular Zach. They helped me a lot. We were talking over the weekend about the Doomfist and Overwatch meta and how it's changing. So I just want to give them a shout out. Inca and Waffles are in the chat, so just want to say hi to them. Going back to this, so before the break, we were actually talking about how Doomfist might affect the meta. He is very strong. He can actually one-shot, I think it's 21 out of 24 heroes at the moment. So I would be very surprised if we don't see the teams at least trying him out. We are in a best of 3, so it gives teams kind of some of flexibility and an opportunity to maybe try things that are slightly different without, just completely losing and kicked out of the tournament. We saw that in, I think it was the first day, Group A, and gave actually the other team, I can't remember who it was they were playing against, but they gave them the opportunity to, there was a DC, but they allowed the win to go through for the other team. I guess it said that it was the confidence in themselves that they knew they would 2-0 them, so they were happy to give that up. But it is interesting to see how things might happen. I really hope Doomfist gets used.
I really hope so too. Like, and not only for the sake of just the show this time. I really think that it's an interesting hero that can be used in these certain situations. But it's down to the players to actually find out which situations are going to be the best. And as I mentioned, it's not an exactly even group, where we have MixyMix somewhere out there on the European scene, Singularity quite dominant on the European scene, then YP trying to get a little bit of exposure to themselves, and then FTW, whom we don't know much about. Maybe in a matchup of, for instance, Singularity versus FTW, because there would be a possibility for Singularity to pick that Doomfist in order to test him out, if it even is worth it playing him.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think that would be very interesting. I don't know. I expect them to do it just because at the end of the day, his ability to destroy someone is going to be huge. Already, we're actually looking. It looks like Leaf has picked Doomfist. Now, as I was saying in the pre-game chat, Doomfist has a very strong kit that can destroy 21 one-shot 21 out of 24 heroes, but he only has about 250 HP. But comboed with his passive, if he's able to land his skills on an enemy champion, he gets a shield of 150, I think. But the danger is if he doesn't land those skills, then he's a very squishy target. The potential meta change is that Ana becomes much more viable for her long-range heals, and Zarya, her shield that she's able to put on Doomfist before he launches himself into the other team. So it's kind of a protection shield. So it'd be very interesting. It seems like they are prioritizing that sort of effort. And look at that, completely eliminates Method Man straight away, just on the edges there, making sure that Tracer isn't able to get a good flank and jump in. Now, For the Win have gone for much more traditional team comp, it seems.
Yeah, it seems so, and they're getting obliterated right now. Method Man was not there in the first place. He's once again gonna get smacked against the wall. Leave. And he's doing that with a Tracer. It's not the easiest thing, I tell you. And actually, first of all, he wrapped around the buildings like a Pharah Mercy would, which was a little bit surprising. It was very effective, but I guess it didn't help him too much because he didn't gain a lot of speed. But he's trying to poke around with the ranged attacks. He's just trying to jump in, trying to read the movements of the enemy players.
Oh, look at that.
Yep, and he's definitely reading everything very well. Then jumps back into his team, just gets to safety, will get healed up, and that double kill surely counts a lot.
Yeah, so for those who aren't sure or not sure of his kit, the way that Doomfist works is that he can combo his uppercut into his ground slam and do an immense amount of damage, as we've seen, and then use his auto attack to kind of finish people off. As I said, he is quite squishy, so he's using him for flanks, and he can replace a Tracer as we're seeing him. And look at that, the damage is just coming out of him. It's insane. Especially when it's comboed with an Ana that's able to heal him from quite far away, and a Zarya that's able to put a shield on him just for that extra durability. So this is really interesting. Leaf is actually taking complete control of the game at the moment and not giving For the Win Esports any chance to grab control at that point. Already it's 75%, and I actually don't see them turning this around.
Yeah, this is looking real interesting. The Nano Boost comboed with him actually allowed him to get the 3 kills. Now, that looks really impressive, and that's going to be a Graviton Surge into that Doomfist Souls. It doesn't deal so much damage as one would expect probably, but 2 kills is more than enough to just dominate them, close them out in the respawn. Leaf is going to go in further and further and manages to jump away from there just to get some more heal again. There's a Reinhardt also in the line, a MixyMix. They're going for something old. That indeed is the meta change that you talked about, forced by maybe the addition of just one single hero. And when you mentioned that Leaf already is sitting on that Doomfist, it was 20 seconds before they rolled out into the map. So I was thinking like, yeah, maybe he's just playing around. But then I saw the golden weapon on him, and I mean, like, Okay,
that's a
maybe
perfect
he's more
game right
serious
there.
about the
He didn't die once, and that's just insane. I mean, like, For the Win didn't even get the opportunity to get on the point, let alone contest it. So Leaf took over that. He's just being monstrous at the moment. So I want to kind of talk about the other heroes around it in a way. Now, people were talking about Reinhardt and saying that he could be a good combo because of his ultimate. Like Zarya and Mei, it's able to lock down the opposing team so that Doomfist is able to combo his way in. But just look at this damage and the way he's bottlenecking. But we do see on the other side that For the Win have now brought up the Zarya and the Reaper, who has seen quite a bit of success in the Apex finals, if people were able to catch that.
Yeah, and of course they need that Reaper when they're coming back with the Zarya, Reinhardt, and a combo. They need the Reaper, but the Reaper is just completely helpless because there's this additional asset of having the Doomfist. And this is also an interesting thing. Like, normally in this lineup you would see Nano boosting the Reinhardt, but right now it's more focused on Doomfist, if I'm not mistaken. And we're talking about his low health pool, but as you said, he didn't die once. Just look at his survivability skill.
This is just like Leaf's map movement is huge, and he's completely taking over this game at the moment. And if For the Win don't figure out a way to handle it, it's going to be a real issue. Already we've seen Sting moving over to Doomfist himself, but I'm not sure he's as strong as Leaf on it because they didn't open with it. So I wonder how prepared and practiced For the Win are for this type of comp. Now, we've been seeing a huge dive comp, and the thing is that Doomfist can... Actually, geez, he can... Oh, there we go. He's finally taken down by Method Man. There we go. What I was saying is that Doomfist actually fits into this more tanky comp, and he can also fit into a dive comp, depending on how the player in the team plays it. But the rest of MixyMix is just also dominating. We're very focused on Leaf, but look at that. Asino is just really doing really great. Astiko is doing great at keeping everyone alive, and For the Win is stuck in their respawn base.
Yeah, that's the thing. You're able to finally get the kill on Doomfist, but you're getting obliterated by a Graviton Surge into the Rocket Hammer Pounds. And now we've got Nano Boost on both the sides, but that's how Winston. They're going back to what's kind of fresh on the meta. They're not going back to that Reinhardt. They decided it's going to be a little bit different this time. But Leaf getting a double kill, triple kill even when he kills up there. There is also not even a single D.Va, interestingly enough, that I wanted to point out, on the contrary to the first and second day. And once again, the team fights completely victorious in the favor of MixyMix. And yeah, as you mentioned, Stig going for that Doomfist does not seem so favorable. He just desperately tried to counter the enemies on this first point. Now in the second round, also he kicked off with the Reaper. He thought they were going to counter the Reinhardt normally, but it fails completely. And now they get a Graviton Surge on towards the Reinhardt. They jump in with the Doomfist, and they're not even able to chunk him down.
Yeah, I mean, Move managed to get on the point and kind of take the game into overtime at the very least to give For the Win a bit of hope, but, you know, didn't actually do anything at all in that game. The thing about it is that, so you mentioned D.Va's not in the match. Well, the reason is that Zarya takes D.Va's spot, and she D.Va works very well with Doomfist in getting into the enemy face, because both champions can run up to the other team. With D.Va's defense matrix, she can protect Doomfist. He can then output the damage together, and then they can jump out at the same time. So they're both very mobile, and they combo very well together. But Zarya's shield on Doomfist also works extremely well, and she can sit further back. And her Graviton Surge is an excellent way to lock down the heroes, and you can combo that into the Reinhardt or into Doomfist. So it's really insane. I mean, Leaf is just taking over, and I feel like we're ignoring everyone else, but I kind of feel like there's no one else that we can really highlight. The rest of his team is doing incredibly well. Astiko is making sure that Leaf isn't dying. Eagles as well. We saw a huge Earthshaker from Nether, so there's definitely all of MixyMix are doing their job, but I'm not sure what For the Win need to do right now to take control.
Oh, well, right now the Far Mercy, they could keep their distance from the Doomfist. That could be the answer to what's happening on the map right now, but as you pointed out, we're talking only about Leaf, but I feel like it's not giving the credit to the rest of the team. They're all supporting him. Everybody's focused on just getting that Doomfist in there, and well, apparently the Far is also not going to be able to do much. And Ingwe
Oh,
He's
no.
gonna suicide a little bit too late, so the stall's very successful. That's always the additional 10% right there, ticking on towards the account of MixyMix, and these guys are looking to take the Lijiang Tower 3-0. Now the question is, what do you do as FTW? They will get to pick the next map. It will be either Nepal, which will be pretty much the same as the Doofus, will work exactly the same right there, or King's Road. And there it might be a little bit different, but I still think that you can fit him in there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think at this time, this is where the mental game really comes in. For the win, need to just accept, okay, unfortunately this round is lost. It's alright. They've got to reset, and they need to just kind of drag this game out, talk about their team comp and their strategy for the next map. What map do they want to play? What type of team comp do they want to play? And how can they counter this Doomfist? Sting doesn't seem to be really having the same impact as Leaf. So
not at all.
Do they go back to the more traditional dive comp meta that we've been seeing previously, and will that be more successful on a different map, or do they need to figure out which players and combos can they do? Because right now, look at this, Mercy and here we go. They're going. Sorry, he's now doing Meteorite, and oh my god, look at that.
Yeah, and the thing is, right
sorry,
here,
I'm just completely getting distracted by this gameplay, but it is
yeah. Leaf is starting to demolish the enemy's lineup without the nano boost, without anything really, because his team got scattered while I was watching Sting for all that time, and he got nano boosted, he got in, and he only got a single hit on the nano boost. There's one, he got the kill on Anna, if I'm not mistaken, but at the other time, he was not even able to hit a single smash or even get close to the enemies. Right now, he's once again going to get obliterated, and that is going to be MixyMix taking 3-0, and all of that being clean sweeps. Not even a single percent on the side of the enemy lineup. FTW are getting smashed, and Leaf, very well deserved, as probably the man leading his team right now, getting the play of the game.
I'm really surprised that Leaf got this play of the game given his underwhelming performance.
Oh, yeah.
But that's actually insane. I would never have guessed that For the Win wouldn't have even gotten 1% on the game. Estiko had a huge amount, 36% of kill participation. Leaf had 33 eliminations and 52% kill participation. So he was involved with over half of the team's kills, which is just huge. I do actually want to bring attention to Estiko, who's playing Anna, playing it incredibly well. There was a number of times where Leaf was actually under danger, and Estiko was able to use Anna's sleeper or the heals to make sure that he didn't die. In the first match, actually, Leaf didn't die at all. So yeah. Now we've seen For the Win, they weren't able to handle that at all. They seem to try to pick up the Doomfist themselves, but they don't seem very well practiced on it. And in my opinion, just trying to replicate what the other team does, but not as well as them, is always a recipe for disaster. If you know how to play it, then you should play it. But if not, you should play on your own terms. It's always a mistake to allow the other team to dictate the way the game is going. So I think they should pick the map that they're most comfortable on, and they should go back to the team combination that they feel the most comfortable on and play their game against MixyMix.
Yeah, and in his ranked matches, Leaf has not picked Doomfist even once. He doesn't have a single minute of gameplay on him, right. So he probably just tested it out on all the various scrims that they managed to get, and yeah, that seems very much impressive. And once again, just that's the thing, FTW, they notice how influence on the game the Doomfist is, so they try to pick it up themselves. But if you never thought about it before the game started, it's way too late to actually do that. You don't know even half as much about that Doomfist as Leaf does.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's like we said, you know, we're talking about Leaf a lot, but it's really a team effort. Estiko was making sure that Leaf's health never dropped too low. Eagles was always there to make sure that the shield was active on Leaf, whether he got his passive shield or another one. And they were comboing their ultimates very nicely. So For the Win, need to just accept that they aren't as coordinated on this, and we're already seeing, look at Mia going on to the Diva. Sting is still on that Doomfist, but I'm not sure if they'll be sitting on it, but it'll be interesting to see how they deal with this on King's Row.
Yeah, that's one side of the coin. Like, they're getting huge peel and great support for that Doomfist of theirs, but On the other side, if you've been paying attention to Sting, he never had a chance to actually get into the team fight on that garden map for Lijiang Tower. The one time he got in was with a nano boost, and then he was extremely inaccurate with the abilities. So that's just heavily underwhelming performance compared to Leaf this far, where he's able to kill Tracer 2 times in a row over the course of like 25 seconds.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be interesting to see how things go. So I'm surprised at seeing Valifa on McCree. That's something I definitely didn't expect to see. But on the other side, they've brought out the Hanzo, and got kind of, it's a weird little bit of a combination. Oh no, they've swapped back. Never mind.
Yeah.
Just a tease.
Unfortunately.
So as we see here, Valifa is sitting at the back here, just kind of putting out that DPS. It'll be interesting to see how effective this is. But no, we're back on Leaf and his damage, and he's showing us exactly how effective it is with opening the game up with a double kill.
Well, he was extremely low in health, but then somehow managed to survive. Right now, the entirety of the enemy team pushed back. But Leaf also finds a little bit of something for his McCree right there. Mir gets pinned to the wall, and even that Zarya is almost dead from one single punch. And you have to like keep that in mind, that whenever you get hit with a fist, it hurts a lot. But when you get pinned to the wall, it just doubles the damage. It's amazing. Just like the Reinhardt.
So from what I understand and what I've seen, the way to counter Doomfist is more of a long-range support. So people like I think it's Pharah can be very good. Soldier 76 is another one who's very good against I'm trying to think of who else is. There was another one that can be Hanzo. Hanzo can be very good against Doomfist. But we did see briefly a Pharah and Mercy combo previously on Lijiang Tower in the 3rd round, but it wasn't very effective. And I think part of the issue here isn't just the Doomfist, but the coordination of MixyMix is way better than For the Win Esports at the moment.
Yeah, surely the entire team effort, and right now that Graviton Surge catches him towards everybody, and we've not seen a single ultimate like that throughout Lijiang Tower from the other side from FTW. And yeah, as you're pointing out, like Hanzo, sure, he might be able to counter him if he gets a good headshot in, but then he's a situational pick, so he's going to be pulling the entirety of the team back with him. And I don't think that it's worth it to just counter a single hero out there.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because like at the end of the day, I would agree with you normally, but Leaf is being so dominant. But here we have Method Man just jumping in. Look at that triple kill. He's definitely making this Genji work. So can this be the opening up that they need to take control of that first point? And it definitely looks that way. What a great performance by Method Man, not letting the previous match and the opening kind of get to him too much, and For the Win able to actually pull it together and start moving the payload forward.
And finally, the nano boost not landing on a Reinhardt, not landing on a Doomfist, but getting it on towards a Genji. And that's something that I was supposed to say. I don't really like them, like seeing them playing the Sting's Doomfist, because he kind of lacks in that area compared to Leaf. And then they switched over to the Reaper to counter the old Reinhardt and Anacom, but I just don't think that it's how it should go. They should just find their own kind of playstyle at which they exceed. And Method Man, he found out how unworth it is to play the Tracer against Leaf, that he decided to go for a Genji, and this far it's been working quite fine. But that is just one combination of bolts. They'll have to stack it up again, and they're once again being held back by the enemy team. And even Zarya, just sending out the bombs at the respawn, not letting them get out of it.
Yeah, I mean, Method Man was quite weak at the end there, but Ingwe, who's on fire, as you can see on the screen, is doing a great job at keeping the team alive and trying to make sure that For the Win is able to move that payload further forward. But it looks like a Graviton Surge has caught them, and are they able to combo this into something bigger? Method Man's ultimate is nearly up, but nope, he's been eliminated.
Yeah, that's the thing. We get finally a 6-man Graviton Surge from the red team, but they're not really getting much out of it. Now, the Winston with the Nano Boost isn't really too helpful, especially with the distance that the enemies put between themselves, and Damien's gonna get a shot to the ground, instantly knocked down by Nether with Eagles. And yeah, once again, chased back to the respawn. Once again, a lot of that time bank exhausted, and MixyMix just staying dominant as much as possible.
Yeah, they absolutely are, and I have to now. Eagles is on fire on this game, and I think he's putting a great performance on the Zarya, making sure that Leaf is protected. His Gravitron Surges have caught a lot of people, and he's outputting a lot of damage to just make sure that For the Win isn't able to move forward. Here we go. A nice sleeper dart from Ingrid.
Yeah, and the one thing that was able to take down Leaf on the second point of Lijiang Tower and Control Center was the correct sleep dart. So I'm thinking that maybe the Ana can counter him, but it's not so often that you actually can hit that sleep dart. And you could see that he even survived that because for most of the time he had the mana boost on. So they didn't really want to wake him up because that would have killed them all. And basically, once again, a great flank. As you pointed out, first thing that this Doomfist is getting into the night market, that he's going to be filling in that role of the Tracer a little bit, just getting the flanks going. And he was sitting behind 4 people, the Nano Boost kicks in, he gets 3 kills out of that one. Now gets out with the ultimate, once again, just perfectly sees through everything and controls everything around him, but will get killed off by Sting, actually.
So what I want to see here is Method Man's ultimate is up, and so is Ingwe. So I wonder if we're going to get a nano boost on Method Man with the support of the others, so which could be a very dangerous one. But note, Method Man has been eliminated before he's able to actually use his blade and the nano boost combo. But they are sitting at nice 4 ultimates, so there is the potential for the Win to combo them if they can get that coordination right, which will push MixyMix off the payload, and For the Win is able to take control of the map again. But look, I'm watching Eagles, and he's just dominating on this Zarya pick. It is pretty insane. But here we go. Look at that. Move has now dropped his ultimate. We have Method Man jumping in, and is he going to be able to get some kills? Great reflection, is able to get 2 kills, but it's not enough.
Yeah, that's not enough. The Earth Shatter kicks in, and that hits 3 people. He was just 1 man behind them. And that's going to be the overtime already ticking. I was supposed to say they have 1 approach, 1 time. They have to knock down the entirety of the enemy team, and then they might be able to take over the second point of the overtime. And then Winston right in the middle of the fray with a Primal Rage will just be extending it as much as possible. The Genji joins in. How? But he actually dies as quickly as he gets in. Eagles, once again, what a performance on that Zarya. We have to give him the credit and belief. Also, another thing that I wanted to give him kudos for, he's not giving up the McCree. He just stayed on the McCree consistently throughout the entirety of the map. They got wiped out 2 times out there, and there were some situations where one might have thought that it might have been better to just go for a different hero, but he stuck with it, and it's worked out.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I didn't really see the impact of the McCree so much. They won, so that's what matters at the end of the day, but I'm not sure. You know, he definitely output quite a bit of DPS, but beyond that, I wasn't sure. Eagles, though, possibly the MVP of that last round. Leaf, obviously, with jumping around and murdering people, but Eagle, with the secondary fire and the shields on Leaf and the Graviton Surges, was really setting up the rest of the team to succeed. So here we have another interesting comp. So Veleef is on Hanzo and Pixie is on Widowmaker. So we have 2 long-range damage dealers, but we don't know what For the Win are currently picking. So it seems they're taking their time to try and decide on what team comp they want.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Every single time you see both a Widowmaker and a Hanzo, there is a chance that one of them will be left over. Probably the Hanzo will just throw out the Sonic Arrow, and Widowmaker will try to snipe somebody down for about 30 seconds, and then if it's successful, they'll stick with it. If it's not, it will get switched out.
See, this is potentially what I would have liked to have seen from For the Win, because whilst Doomfist is mobile and able to do it, he can't really counter a Hanzo who's sitting up high apart from away from the team and able to just kind of do that damage and poking. But this is really where it comes down to the team coordination, and that's what I think For the Win have really been lacking. MixyMix have been doing so well, and more than one member. You know, we've been talking about Leaf nonstop, and I'll keep bringing it back to. But Estico has been doing incredible. Eagle was probably on fire for the whole of the last match. Neza hit some great games, an ultimate. So it really is the whole of MixyMix that is enabling this domination for the win.
A big sleep darts hit the leaf, but he actually manages to just stay alive right there. Nobody focusing on him. The Hanzo in attack on King's Row, something that I've longed to see for quite a bit of time now, with the first and second day not really giving us any Hanzos at all. And Belief goes for it, but he's not even able to land too many shots out there, not a single kill. He's charging up the ultimate though, and then I'm interested in how he'll try to use the Dragon Strike. And they don't even need to push that payload far. They still have 5.5 minutes. There is no chance this far that FTW will pick up a fight, because they're just trying to defensively stay exactly at the point where the payload needs to be pushed through.
Yeah, so for the win, are trying to set up here around the corner in a checkpoint, but Leaf just dives in and ends up killing 2 people, with Leaf picking up the third Zarya. And Leaf now picks up a third person in Ingwe, so we have 4 down on for the win, which means that that choke point was absolutely non-existent. It's like Mixy are just playing against bots at the moment. Like the amount of coordination from coming out of for the win is really disappointing, and I expected a lot more. And there we go, match complete with 4 minutes and 53 seconds.
Wow. And the Dragon Strike also, it scatters everybody around. Leaf had the easy targets that he wanted to get. He got them down. The rest was wiped out by the rest of the team simply, or they just ran away without even giving it a shot. So yeah, Leaf definitely gets a lot of credit for all that, but as we mentioned, there was Eagles doing a ton, Azteca with his perfect support, and Neza on that Reinhardt also. Whenever Leaf was not there, he was jumping in and pounding down on them with the rocket hammer, so that's also something we have to give him credit for. And Method Man with this play, he managed to give them at least a point capture.
58% kill participation from Azteca, so sorry to interrupt you there. But that just shows how MixyMix are really coordinating so well that their support is able to be involved. And Azteca was performing so well that he was involved with nearly 60% of the eliminations. So sorry to interrupt, but what were you saying?
Yeah, so imagine them not having that one nanoblade. It might have even been a 1-0 in favor of MixyMix after the King's Row, which is quite crushing. Yeah. But that is our first, what do you even call that? A quote-unquote first match of the day, with Singularity getting a free win from YP right there. And now we'll be transferring over to the winners match. Quite an impressive performance from MixyMix, one would like to say, but Singularity, not sure if it's going to be enough against them, and there's even a chance to see a mirror matchup like that. There's even a chance for Singularity to drop that. And one more question is, MixyMix, judging by the stats, they're the second best team in this group. Singularity should be the best. I would actually like them not to play the Doomfist, but show us the way around the Doomfist. Like, show what would be the best pick against it, what you can do about it, maybe the Hanzo that you mentioned, shutting it down, or anything else really. Something that will limit Leaf's movement as much as possible and just shut him down.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was a complete domination from MixyMix there. It'll be interesting to see what Team Singularity are able to do, because they're coming in cold. They should have watched that match, so they should have, obviously it's a very dominant performance from MixyMix, so it'll be interesting to see what Team Singularity are able to prepare, or whether MixyMix are going to be able to upset, because, as you said, Singularity is the team that we expect to be the strongest, but MixyMix were right behind them, and with this kind of performance coming out of the whole team, not just Leaf, but Azteca and Eagle and Neza, Pixie, Velif all performing so well that I would be worried if I was Singularity. As for the counters, I think, like I mentioned, those long-range heroes can shut down a Doomfist if they're not careful. It is dependent, obviously, on the map and the way that those long-range heroes can focus on someone like Doomfist. But a lot of it also will come down to just the team coordination, and that's where I feel like For the Win really failed, that they just weren't as coordinated. And when opportunities came up, like Method Man's performance, which, like, that play of the match was excellent, and they were able to capitalize on it, capture the payload, and then move it slightly forward. But after that, it just seemed like they were trickling in 1, 2, 3 at a time.
You know, just
So
taking a look at Method Man's play history, he's
yeah,
got 48 hours on Winston, and then
wow,
Genji on 44 hours. And that's basically been about the entirety of FTW, if I'm not mistaken. All of their players had Genji, Tracer, and Winston in their top plate, like nearly every single guy out there.
right, yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. So just so that people know, unfortunately, Team YP weren't able to play today due to a situation that came up with two of their players, so they had to be disqualified. And Singularity advanced over to round 2. So I guess that benefited MixyMix Team Singularity and For the Win, because now For the Win obviously are going to advance straight to the next round, so they won't be facing up against Team YP either. Now, in this situation, you were saying that you'd like to see Team Singularity come up with their own strategy to counter the Doomfist. I think you can still play that dive comp. So it will be interesting to see if they pull it out. If they do get a mirror match, I'm a little bit worried that it could be very snowbally. You know, if one Doomfist or one team is just that much more coordinated and they're able to get the ball rolling and the other team isn't able to reset the map in the fights, there is a potential that we just see another steamroll, which would be quite disappointing.
Yeah, but a lot of stuff can happen, and this time I don't think that Belief will be able to go for either a Hansa or a McCree. But then there comes a question, what do you take to back up that Doomfist as a DPS? Because Doomfist alone kind of dictates how the team fights will look like.
Yeah.
And it's kind of unique, so it's hard to follow it up. So I'm wondering, like, is the second DPS a Tracer with a very similar kind of playstyle, or is it actually going to be a soldier that just from behind tries to back it up with some cover fire? Because I don't think that Genji will fit into it too much. McCree, surely not. And then Reaper or that, of course, not. So I'm kind of leaving it between the Tracer and Soldier, kind of for me.
I mean, Diva is quite good combo as well because of obviously her mobility means that she can follow the Doomfist into the other team, and the defense matrix can stop the other team from eliminating the two of them, and then they can jump out once their DPS has been laid down. But I guess swapping tones, because we've been talking about Doomfist quite a lot, I would like to kind of focus on Reaper as a pick. So in the finals of Apex, we saw Reaper being brought out to quite a lot of success because of the recent change, or not, I say recent, actually, not that recent, but the changes to his lifesteal mechanic and his ability to shred opposing tanks and to create a bit of flexibility and so on. So it will be very interesting to see how whether the teams look at the Apex finals and how they were played out, and they take that Reaper and some of the team comps that we saw there and incorporate them into their play today.
Oh, well.
To see. But then, of course, unfortunately, the Apex finals didn't have Doomfist enabled. So this is the thing. I mean, like, Doomfist just does change the meta completely. But since it's so early, it will be really exciting to see. But now let's talk about the teams here. So you mentioned Singularity is really the favorites of this group. Who on the team do you expect to show up, and should we keep an eye on?
It's going to be an interesting question for sure. I think that Monday is a guy to watch, that for sure. The next up is going to be Craigie, but I'm just mentioning the DPS players, obviously, because especially after what's happened just a while ago, the Doomfist changed so much that the DPS will be all the more important, so that if anybody else is able to bring up a performance even at least comparable to what Leafs has done, and that would be these two guys, Mandy and Craigie, on the lineup of Singularity. But also, Calyx looks pretty impressive on a Lucio of his. I hope that he'll have some clutch ultimates of his. And also, that raises a little bit of questions. I don't think we've seen a single Zenyatta in the matchup of MixyMix versus FTW esports. So is there going to be a Zenyatta popping up, or is it once again just going to be all about the Ana, all about the Reinhardt? Is the Winston actually disappearing with not much changes to him? Him being such a hyped up champion and one of the most contested heroes lately, Will he just like that disappear because of Doomfist popping up?
Yeah, I mean, that'll be really interesting because at the end of the day, there was, as I mentioned a bit earlier before the previous match, I was reading what Jeff Kaplan was saying, and Winston and D.Va were two champions that were highlighted by a lot of people, and they were complaining and saying, you know, that there was a real issue with the champions. Now, about a month or two ago, when D.Va was nerfed, people were saying that she was unusable, etc., etc. And then the dive comp meta came about, and suddenly D.Va has been so strong with Winston, and because of that, everyone's been asking for nerfs to them. Now, what Kaplan was saying is that him and the Overwatch team at Blizzard don't think that the nerfs are necessary. They actually think the game is quite balanced in its current state, and that if a meta change is to come about, it should come about from the players who figure out a way to counter that dive comp. Now, with the inclusion of Doomfist, that's going to change everything, and it looks like we're going back to a more tanky setup. You know, Ana is definitely being prioritized. We saw the Reinhardt. Zarya suddenly replaces the D.Va because of the way her kit fits with Doomfist. So it is pretty crazy. I feel like we're just talking about Doomfist again and again, but it's so important, and it completely changes the way the game is being played, at least from this first matchup before the win against MixyMix. So it's interesting to see. I know we do have a video about Team Singularity that we'll be bringing up at some point soon.
Okay, so Reinhardt's rocket hammer swing speed has been increased by 10%, and that pretty much... okay, and also Zarya disables mobility abilities, which is quite big, so that also gives a lot of strength to Zarya. So only really Reinhardt and Zarya were affected by some like direct buffs of nerfs, and in this case it's both buffs, and that surely adds even more to them, so that there's Reinhardt, there's Zarya popping up, there's Doomfist also added, and that also surfaces Ana quite a bit, since if you have Doomfist, you're limiting your possibilities of having a soldier in there, so you're not necessarily going to need that Zenyatta. The nano boost is going to be so much more effective. But yeah, for now, we're going to take a look at Singularity's introductory video into this tournament, as this is actually their first match right now.
Never gonna give you up. I'm never gonna let you go. Never gonna